Good evening, internet, from me and Simba. What's up, little Simby? Welcome to my boudoir. Very yellow this evening. They call me Mellow Yellow. Quite rightly. My hair's getting a bit fluffy. I've been keeping my finger on the pulse a bit with politics, well, rather the political situation. Well, yeah, politics in general, I would say. Not too much because it gets a bit depressing, doesn't it? But one thing that I have found is a little bit unsettling is the feeling of like it being a bad thing to be patriotic. Like, I wouldn't say I'm massively patriotic. Well, my family's ancestry is Scottish on my father's side, and you sort of, in the same sense of you support who your dad supports. I've always felt probably a bit of both, really. I had a PE teacher that said I'm the only person that could wear a Scotland shirt on one day and an England shirt on the next. And but there's this weird thing at the moment, specifically in England, where I feel I have these England signs that are in the back of my van when I bought it, and I've put one on the outside, just like as kind of like a pushback to this feeling like this, really. But I felt and feel uncomfortable having them there, or at least having one there, because I actually only put one rather than two on one side. And that, while I'm doing my evening stretches, that I've been watching the stuff about the Britain First, is it? Marches in Birmingham, and I think there was one in Nuneaton. And I was watching the interviews, and like there's obviously always like pushback for the sort of left, and everyone that was in, I'm pretty agnostic, I would say. I have my own views. I try and make my own mind up about stuff, and I don't really adhere to. I can just because I agree with something that someone says doesn't mean that I agree with everything they say, if that makes sense. But like in the interviews, the people that made themselves look bad and were like shouting and swearing and not being all that coherent were the ones that were on the extreme left. There was a guy with like face tattoos and stuff. I'm not saying face tattoos are the issue, but like he was like swearing and like wasn't being that coherent. And then all the guys and girls that were in all the ones that are selected from obviously the filming that then got put into the YouTube video that I was watching by this YouTube dude. Nothing what they said was, I mean, there was what they actually, no, tell a lie. There was one guy who was very much like white supremacist type, who was like, yeah, being British is based on your ancestry, and it was kind of quite Hitler-esque. And that was the only one that sort of pushed the boundaries to the point of like, well, I was thinking, well, whereas all the other people that were interviewed were just basically saying that it was nothing to do with race, it was nothing to do with creed or whatever. It was about Britain first, and like, you know, how the country isn't what it was, and it never used to be like this in the 2000s, or like when I was growing up. And there was nothing that was said in it, because like you always think like Tommy Robinson's a good example. I always thought like over the last few years, or last 10-15 years since he's been sort of in the public eye, there was always that assumption that he was a twat. And there's this far right thing, like far right thuggery, this far right, everything gets labelled as far right at the moment. But like, that was probably the most thing that could be far right as you could be labelled. And I would say 90% of the people that spoke on it spoke really well. And it was only about British people not being happy with how Britain was. But none of them said anything racist. None of them said anything rude. None of them said anything, like, they were all pretty rational, it sounded like. And I was quite surprised, because I was expecting to watch that thinking, because I like to watch all sides and then make my own mind up of taking in all of the information. Sorry, I'm stretching. Sorry, taking in all of the information and then making my own mind up on what I think after taking in all of the sides. And I was really expecting to go into that video thinking, oh, fucking hell. But like 90% of them spoke really well, which I was surprised by. And then it ties in with this thing I've been thinking of recently about how I don't feel comfortable having an England flag on the side of my van, which is weird. Like, why? We've got to be the only place on earth where it's demonized to be patriotic. The States would never have that. They're very patriotic of all sides of the political spectrum. I imagine. I never lived there, but from what it seems, they're very, very patriotic, aren't they? Here it feels like it's demonized to be patriotic. I'm not even that patriotic. I'm feeling more so now that I feel like I'm not allowed to be, if that makes sense. But I have no problem with immigration. I lived in Spain. I was an immigrant. I suffered racism, so I don't have any. My wife's an immigrant. My kid's mixed race, so I don't have any problem with that kind of stuff. Yeah, I saw what racism can be like every day, and I try and speak to all the Kurdish guys from the car washes around here, because I've got my car business still, just about. So I'm learning a new Kurdish word or a new Arabic word each time I go. Marhaba, salam alaikum. And then shukran is thank you, and kaipa hafal, I think so I say. Kaipa, I can't do it. It means how are you? But like, so, ow, fuck me. I get tight groin, it affects my back. So, I don't know what the answer is. I've been thinking about this a lot tonight. What's the answer to all of this? Because actually, there's far more similarities between traditional Christian values and Islam than there are differences, so it seems. And I say traditional Christian values, not the society that we live in that's like glamorizes porn and sex in music, because they're probably not, well, they're not traditional Christian values. And there's definitely a huge shift back to Christianity, which is great. I've been reading the Bible for a few years now. I've actually stopped reading it because it's just, I've read a bit of the Quran as well. Always looking for answers, always. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It seems the initial thing for me to say was the far left, the very far left, but like the left, and to say something's left, there's like a new one now, the woke thing, like being left and being liberal. There is a certain element of being left and liberal that's necessary for community. You know, being understanding of other people, being respectful of them. Like, But the extreme left don't do that. So I think that they should rename the extreme left, because I think that it gives the left a bad name. I think the extreme left give the left a bad name. I've just thought of that off the top of my head. Thanks God. But yeah, because I'm really trying to be objective and like approach like looking at these things objectively. And there was a video about there was a trans guy or girl saying that they couldn't get a job when they had the trans thing on their CV, but as soon as they took it off the CV, they got a job. And that was like the kind of victim-y mindset of like, oh no, they won't give me a job because I'm trans. Well, or it's just a little bit unprofessional, and we are in capitalism, like it or not. I don't know. Or it's just like a bit petulant, isn't it? It's that petulant, like it's like a bit toys out of the pram thing with the very, very far left. It's kind of like, you have to do everything that I say, and you can't ask, you can't say anything about it, but then I can say and do whatever I want and you can't question me. Like, everyone should be proud to be who they are. Everybody should be allowed to do, no one should be stopped from doing anything that they want to do. But that makes the far left hypocritical, because you can't say anything without being labelled something, far right or a phobe of some sort. So you can't say it, you can't question them, but they can question everybody else. Seems hypocritical, at the least. Destructive, quite possibly, maybe. But this is the stuff that I've been trying to figure out, like, what is the issue? Because then it's very easy to say, oh, it's the far left that are the issue. It's not, though, is it? It's not. It's like saying the Jews are responsible for globalism, but it's not the Jews. Even if there was a Jewish family that controlled everything, that wouldn't even still make it the Jews' fault, because there's loads of really sound, cool, nice Jewish people. It's not Jews that's the problem, it's greed that's the problem. So it's the devil that's the problem, it's sin, it's the other side of the moral compass that's the problem. It's not Jewish people that are the problem. There may be a situation where it just so happens that the people that had control with the money happened to be a Jewish family, even if that is probably the case. But it's not because the Jewish is the problem, it's because they're greedy bastards, and they don't care about, and those people didn't care about human life. That's why, don't get me started. COVID probably kill off it's overpopulation stuff. If you zoom out and try and be like objective, there's quite a lot of question marks. And then if you kind of join those dots together, I feel like you can kind of, or at least I feel like I have come to some sort of understanding where I'm like, oh right, that makes sense. Oh right, that makes sense. And then it starts to become even more obvious. It's like the music thing. They basically had us shagging like rabbits, trying to avoid us having kids. Is basically what I think. If you go back at music and listen to I've spoken about this before, Avril Lavigne album called Let Go, directed at teenage girls, talking about skater boys and let go of what teenage girl? And Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag, within 40 seconds of that album being on, which I bought when I was 11, or got bought for me when I was 11, it's talking about sucking dick. It's called Teenage Dirtbag. So does society reflect music, or does music reflect society? Because that's a question that I've been asking myself, and I quite clearly believe that I have the answer to. Okay, so where does the book stop? How far down the rabbit hole is reasonable, is rational? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there may be some sort of merging of the good bits of Christianity, traditional Christianity, and Islam. because it feels like, from my fairly limited understanding, the crux of the argument between Islam and traditional Christianity, or Islam's problem with Christianity, as far as I'm aware, which I may be wrong, but is the difference between Christians saying that Jesus was the Son of God and Muslims adhering to the notion that he was a prophet and he's not necessarily the Son of God. I think that's kind of a facetious thing to fall out about. Well, can't it, like, we're all the children of God. So he is he was the Son of God. Because just as I am, just as Simba here, if that was a boy or human. You know what I'm trying to get at? So, like, I don't think there actually are that many different. I think we've had our societal views, our traditional values have been systematically dismantled to adhere to the people who had control over the states in Europe not losing control. And here's a weird one for you, which also I've been playing around in my head today. In every European country that you go to, you can go to a high street shop and you can buy a jumper that says Harvard on it, or I've got even one that says Oakland on it. But you can't go to America and buy a Warrington jumper. Not yet, at least. That's weird, isn't it? But is that trying to get us to follow American culture more? And if my theory that the same families that controlled the states, that probably now have lost control of the states, also control Europe, and they were trying to get us to follow celebrity culture and worship fame and money as opposed to, things that actually have meaning. That might be a way to do it. But I don't see how in England and Britain, there's so many generations of immigrants that haven't. The thing is, when I go on holiday to a country, or when I go live in another country, or I go visit another country, I feel really ignorant not speaking the language. Even in Jamaica, I wanted to learn a bit of patois. Believe it or not. Because I felt uncomfortable, because I feel ignorant. But, like, there are many, many people who have come over here that don't do that. So they're not worried about adhering to our culture. Even though, like, in the UK, that traditional Christian values are very important and they work. But our society isn't really that much like that anymore, because we're very Americanized. But, like, old school Americanized, not traditional Christian values, more like fame, worshipping fame and money, like gods, like. But that's false idol. So in the Bible it says don't worship false idols, which is basically celebrity culture. So basically in the Bible it says don't follow celebrity culture. But we have, in at least the last 30 years, worshipped money and fame more than God and Jesus in the Christian sense. Christianity was mocked. Like, you can call them Bible bashers. That's hugely changing. Good. But where's that come from? I think we've generally had I think it's been purposely, we've had our values dismantled on purpose for an agenda, which was probably control of whoever it was that was controlling it. And even if it was a Jewish family, it still doesn't mean that Jews are bad. It means that greed is bad. So it seems like there's definitely a positive shift happening. I'm concerned about the state of the UK. I don't particularly want to get into politics. I don't always feel like I have. I saw a quote from Socrates, which was like, the problem with politics is that if you don't get involved in it, your inferiors will end up governing you. And like, if you think about the career politicians that all went to Eton and like, a numpties might be a polite way of putting it, or just not to be trusted, and fairly inept, because look at the state that we're in, then part of me saying I've got to get involved, and I don't particularly want to, because I've just got better things to do. Got my own battles to fight, but then when does that go from being the individual to then being the community? And then if the community's fine, then the individual has the possibility of fine. And it's just chicken or the egg, I guess. Man, I'm so sore from boxing. Oh man, that's one thing that I struggled with the other day. I went to boxing. I've been going to boxing more regularly, and my back was bad. And I'm so overweight. I've got a problem with my wrist, problem with my back from the crash, got problems with my legs, like historically. And like I can't join in with everything. And being the new kid and not being able to join in is like, it's grim enough being the new kid anyway. But being the new kid and not getting involved and having, I don't know. I often feel misunderstood and pigeonholed. And I think people get the wrong impression when I don't want to join in, because it's not that I don't want to join in, it's the fact that I literally can't. And I said to someone the other day, it didn't go down all that, but I was like, I'm not gonna get injured for your ego. So I do my own warm up, but then it looks like, who's this guy coming in here and doing his own warm up? I was like, mate. But if I don't come, my mental health goes down the Swanee, because life can be challenging. So, and looking after your body, it looks after your mind, and boxing does something to me. It's mint. It changes me. Even though I'll wake up in a better mood, even it's incredible. I find it incredibly empowering. And if my tip of the day would be find something that you love doing and then do as much of it as possible, because just do it, because I'm right. Because I've got no other reason to say that other than my goal is that everyone be benefited. And I don't have any trust in the system, because I was let down a lot and I'm very distrustful of it. And I think that gives me a unique perspective. And also, I have seen the country fall apart, and I have seen that their processes of Jobsworthy or Wokey or whatever aren't the best way forward. And I had to find out answers for myself. And because maybe I'm slightly autistic, or because I'm determined, or because I had a stubborn mother and then that made me determined, or whatever it is, because I just thought, I was just like, no, not listening, making my own mind up, because I believe my own brain. And the best things that I found through the process of elimination, after making lots and lots and lots and lots of mistakes and learning the hard way, is that I have figured out a way of doing this. Doing this. And my priority would be the betterment of everybody. Because I don't feel like I suffer with greed. Quite the opposite. I may even slightly suffer with actually completely opposite, and that's being, no, I was going to say too nice, but I rescued a stray dog today. And I missed my doctor's appointment because of it. Does that make me too nice? It was worth every second. Because one, little Cheech, as I called him, Cheech, it wasn't his name, it was Oscar. I had a really weird, intense bond with him, and it was really cool. And even when I left, he was howling after me and trying to hold on to my leg. And me and the two vets got emotional, because I was like, wow, this is well intense. Because I've been with him for like half an hour, maybe longer, trying to help him. And yeah, I missed my my doctor's appointment because of it. Which then, even though I explained to the doctors, they still wouldn't see me. And I wasn't mad at the woman because that is the system. And this is another example. Oh, there's another perfect example I've been thinking of. Oh, you're going to love this. Where I live, there have been some 30 signs put up with, it's a rectangle, it's got a square, and it says a circle, and it says 30. Underneath it, it's got a circle, and it's got the speed camera sign, right? These have just been put in by the council, government, whoever it is, right? But there aren't any speed cameras on that road. And this is a really good analogy of how the system don't care what they say or do to get what they want. So obviously they want you to slow down. Why would you put a 30 thing in? Well, if you're not going to have a camera there, you're not going to have vans there to try and get money, the only other thing would be to slow down the traffic, which is probably a good thing because it makes it safer. But there aren't any. Can you see me there, Simba? There aren't any cameras on that road. Say what? There aren't any cameras on that road. Say what? But they've put on the signs that there are, which might be considered a little bit dishonest, which then might be exactly what I'm trying to explain about the system. They'll just say what they want to get you to do what they want, even if it's not true. Can you believe that, Simba? He can't believe it. Do you know why? Why? Because he's a fucking lion. He's the Lion King. I didn't know what to say then, and I felt like I butchered that a bit. But yeah, the point remains, I bought this just before my kid was born. And do you know what? On the night before he was born, I was cuddling in bed and I was saying to it, I will never let you down. I'll never lie to you. I will never... What was I saying? I was saying all kind of stuff like that to it. And then 4 hours later, I get a call and he's on the way. Amazing. So, what's the story, Balamory? I shouldn't really feel bad for having an England flag on my car. I know that. I know that we're being lied to about the 30 signs and cameras, the 30 camera signs, because there are no cameras. I know that. But so, at the very least, 2 of those things. I know for a fact that the government have lied to me about the speed cameras being on those roads. So even if you don't believe all the other stuff that I talk about, there's a good analogy. Expand that point out. Where does the book stop? Where does the trend go to? How far does that go? I'm tired now. I'm going to put on some maybe Reiki healing music. Believe it or not, I sleep to it sometimes and I always feel different the next day for it. Yeah, that healing meditation music works. The frequency stuff. That's another one. There's another one. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Solfeggio tones or something they're called. But they're very good. Reiki healing music. Very, very calming. For different chakras, energy systems. So there you go. That's from me to you. That one is for free. And that's the football guarantee. Yeah, I don't know how we fix this. I think we probably have to merge Christianity and Islam, but maybe make a new one, maybe. Has anyone ever thought about making a new religion? Just taking all the good bits from 2 of the main ones and fucking off the other ones that don't seem to be helping. But then I don't know anything about Judaism, so maybe I'm missing a trick. What other ones are there? Buddhism. I think I've got a decent grasp of that. Taoism. Read the Tao Te Ching. Christianity, yeah, very, very useful. And Islam, as far as I can tell. The thing, before I let you go, the big thing about Islam is we live in the burqa, but the burqa was designed to keep women safe. I've spoken about this before. Because as soon as a bird goes past, I say bird, how offensive. As soon as a woman goes past, the majority of men will look straight at the arse. And it's because of the instinctual, primitive thing. And that's actually why the burqa was created. Tommy Robinson twisted that and said that it was to stop men raping women. But that's like the same point, but like extremified. Yes, it is to stop that, but it's also to protect women. Which actually, from that part of men, it does. But then you can't have that in this version of the West. But if you'd had more traditional Christian views, then the difference between... So to go from porn to the burqa is a big gap, but to go from traditional Christian to the burqa is not such a big gap. So this is that gap there between Islam and Christianity, where it's like traditional values, but like not liberal porn, like go too far with it, but not go and chop people's arms off for stealing. But there's the gap between that and that, there is some thing in there. Oh, I'm done it. All right, peace out, players.